This session is about films without borders, bridging cultures. The idea is to explore the kind of stories that resonate across cultures. So many of our films have had an amazing run at A-line festivals this year, recently in the last few years, and everybody is talking about the India in China boom. So how do international programmers and sales agents perceive these cultural quirks? What drives them to pick up a film to champion or represent? How does the positioning of the same film change across markets? We join this session on a fun and informative ride across cultures, understanding the journeys of films and filmmakers through the memories, gut, understanding, and experiences of those experts who have been instrumental in getting them to travel and have watched varied audiences soak them in or reject them. So I won't take much time. I will just quickly invite our experts, our esteemed speakers, Marco Mueller, film critic and historian, artistic director of Pingyao Festival. May I invite you, Marco, please, to come up? Meg Thomson, Senior VP at Worldwide Content, Globalgate. Maria Ruggieri, Head of Sales and Acquisition, Asian Shadows. And moderating this session is Deepti Dcunha, film programmer. Thank you.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for attending the session. As you know, this session is Films Without Borders, and I will first introduce the speakers, and then we will proceed with the conversation. Well, as you have, most of you have already heard Marco before, but today on an earlier panel. But to introduce him again, Marco Mueller is the artistic director of Pingyao International Film Festival in China. And he has been the festival director of some of the most important film festivals in Europe and the world, which include Rotterdam, Locarno, and Venice Film Festival. And Marco is also an Academy Award-winning film producer and has produced several films of directors from various nationalities. And as a festival director, he has discovered talent from all over the world, which also includes some high-profile Asian directors. And specifically at the Film Bazaar, he has been a mentor for rising Indian talent and has been a mentor in the Work in Progress Lab for over a decade now. And the past 5 years, Marco has been busy setting up film festivals in China and literally, you could say, introducing a film festival culture in a country that's, sees this as a very new phenomenon. And we also have with us Meg Thomson. Meg Thomson is a film financier, and she's now with Globalgate Entertainment. Her expertise is includes exploring obscure content, and she finds new markets, and she also adapts and remakes film content by identifying the right cultural fit. She has been a film producer, and she has curated content as well to be sold internationally. And finally, we have Maria Ruggieri. Maria is based in Beijing, and she is with Asian Shadows, which is a leading world sales agent based out of Beijing. And Maria's expertise is in identifying content from Asian countries and taking it to festivals and markets around the world. And from India, Asian Shadows has represented Village Rockstars by Reema Das and also Ashwathama by Pushpendra Singh. And their catalog contains other strong Asian titles from Indonesia and Thailand as well. So I've given a very extensive introduction so that we understand that the people we have here on the panel are experts in what they do, and no one better than them to answer the questions that we have here in mind, because in today's panel, what we aim to do is we are going to try to have a discussion to decode the enigma of films that travel across countries. And I think we could begin this with a phenomenon that has captured the imagination of Indian audiences and film professionals in India, which is a very recent phenomenon of Indian cinema having found a market in China. And this is so unique because I think the distribution in India is such that we have had a very strong distribution in our own country because we consume our own content. And I think what adds to that is just the diaspora market. That is, it's only the NRIs or South Asians, living abroad who watch Indian films because they want to be connected to India. However, recently, as we all know, that we've been hearing of, the successes of big Bollywood films in China, and the successes are stupendous. I mean, it's not that these films are not making big money in India, but they are making unimaginable amount of money more money in China than in India. I mean, so when we look at this and we talk about this, we wonder. A few questions come to my mind, Marco, which I would like to address to you first, because I would like to add here that Marco has been coming to India as a film professional for over 4 decades, and he's also been in China since he was a student, for more, I think, since he was a student. So the understanding of both the cultures is very intense, and also you can see you've been an ambassador of Asian cinema in Europe. So since you have been involved with film for such a long time, you are able to recognize film trends, And I was wondering, with this phenomenon, which is recent, is this because suddenly in China people have discovered Indian content? Or is it because we feel we are culturally similar, because that's what we are told? Or is it that they find Bollywood, which is what is traveling in China, very unique as a genre? So is it the specific genre? Or is it something completely different, which is that, what people in the industry like to say, oh, it's very simple. It's just that China has too many film screens and they don't have enough content, and that is why our films are doing well. So it becomes a distribution exercise. And along with that, if you would like we would like your opinion to know whether you think, is this something we're getting too excited about too early? You think, is this going to stay? Is it going to grow? So a lot of questions, but if you could give us some clarity.
I was telling Liz Shackleton 3 minutes ago that, of course, she should have been on this panel, because since I work for a Chinese government finance festival, you will have to read through the lines, so to speak. Because first of all, I have to give you a little history, and you will immediately understand why you need to read through the lines. 1949, 1962, does that ring a bell? A lot of Indian films had been distributed, because at that time there was only Chinese governmental distribution, and so there was a policy also of fostering cultural relations with friendly countries up to 1962. And of course, everybody, the obvious example would be Awara. Everybody would be able to sing the eponymous song, and then there has been a hiatus. And the hiatus is 62, probably until 91, meaning that 3 generations of viewers had been exposed to Hollywood films. Because basically, what happened with the, after all the economical reforms, the market, the really aggressive policy of conquest of the Chinese market was the policy of the Hollywood, of the 6 majors. So, in a way, we had to come back from that stage to foster a different echo. Because, as you say, they resonate with Chinese audiences. So this echo had to be created not just on the basis of the past and the past of circulation of Indian films in China and of a certain mythology, but also against those war machines that had established. I mean, it would take such a long time to explain also all the agreements that are still in discussion between NPAA and the Chinese local authorities. But to make a long story short, I can quote something that happened to Deepti a month ago, because in Pingyao, she, instead of having a Chinese person singing Awara to her, she had a Chinese person singing to her a song from Bajrangi Bhaijaan. Why? Well, it's easily explained. I mean, it's easily explained. We can come later to the problem of the quota system. I mean, and we can give you some factual informations, but you know, what has happened is that the first case study would be Three Idiots. But the film that really made the difference was PK, because PK has really been the turning point. It's the film where the following for Chinese films went from niche to mass, but the following for, the following for Indian films in China, but the following for Indian films meant at that point the following for Amir Khan. Because after PK, Amir Khan fan clubs, you know how Amir Khan is called in China? He's called Mi Shu. I mean, I don't know why they dropped the A, but Mi Shu means Uncle Mi, Uncle Mir, let's say. Okay, just to prove that kind of popularity. But, so why was the gentleman singing to Deepti a Salman Khan song instead of an Amir Khan? That is also easily explained. You know, I mean, you have PK, you have the incredible success of Dangal, because Dangal pulled over $190 million, I'm talking dollars here, at the Chinese box office in 2016, which means vastly more than any foreign film had ever earned in North America. And of course, it came as an absolute surprise to international observers, but it did not come as a surprise to the two people who had really built a campaign. I mean, I was talking about war machines for the Hollywood film, the penetration of Hollywood films. They really invented a similar war machine. I'm talking about an Indian person, Mr. Prasad Shetty, who operates. That is why I was mentioning Liz Shackleton. If you go online and check at all the articles that Liz has written about Indian films in China, you will find all the relevant information about Prasad Shetty and Alan Liu. So Prasad Shetty is the CEO of the Peacock Mountain Culture and Media Group in Beijing. Alan Liu is his Chinese associate. He sits most of the time in an office in Pasadena, but they can really strategize. They can really strategize, and they can get this kind of record-breaking results, because it has really been the culmination of many years of careful marketing, using the elements that would be strong with Chinese audiences. I mean, you know how they made it possible? First of all, because Chinese audiences are like Indian audiences. They love the local superstars. So what did they do? They contacted the local superstars. And they showed the films to the local superstars. For Dangal, this was incredible, because, they immediately endorsed. I have a long list here. It would be Deng Chao. I'm sure it doesn't ring a bell. Maybe Wang Baoqiang. Wang Baoqiang is a kung fu actor also. Very well loved in China. Yao Chen. Like a dozen superstars watched Dangal and discussed it with their fans on the Chinese equivalents of Facebook and Twitter. And then slowly, other stars like Fan Bingbing, Liu Han, filmmakers like Feng Xiaogang, they also heard about the film. They also started recommending it through the social media followings. But what is also important is that starting from the third week, the film worked on its own. I mean, it is true that it started resonating, and you have to understand why it started resonating, because it was a film, regardless of the fact that at some point President Xi Jinping told Prime Minister Modi, I have watched this film and I like it, which means go see it. But really, I mean, even at the official level, this film, in a way, enhanced a certain set of traditional values. You know, the mentality could be very similar. The father-children relationship, father-girls relationship, the cult and cultivation of excellence. I mean, there are so many elements that would fit in also in a scheme that this would be the foreign film to recommend, as opposed to, you know, superhero movies. But what is amazing is that in this case, we are talking about foreign films that would be dubbed into Chinese. And don't be surprised that I'm saying, I mean, because normally you would expect, well, why not dubbing? Foreign films very often, non-US foreign films are very often dubbed into English in China, because like that you can mask their origin, and people will go see them thinking, I'm going to see, I mean, French animation films, whenever the French announce that, oh, we established a very firm presence in China, we had 8 French films theatrically released in China. Well, 6 of them would be English language films produced by Luc Besson or Studio Canal. 2 of them will be animation films dubbed into English in order to erase any hint of Frenchness for the general audience who would think, oh, I'm going to see probably, I mean, maybe this is Anglo-American or maybe even a Hollywood film. But Russian films are dubbed into English. I mean, I was next to, I'm sure you must know the name of Timur Bekmambetov, the Kazakh-Russian filmmaker. I was next to Timur when he launched one of his films, Midrahon. I don't know in English what it is called. I Am a Dragon, I suppose. It's a princess and dragon story made for the Chinese market. Well, nobody at the launch of the film, press conference plus premiere, was allowed to speak Russian. All the Russian director and the Russian actors, they had to speak English. And nobody had to mention that it was a Russian film, because, and that is also something that you have to understand, the China market is not an open market. There are 2 big distribution groups, China Film Corporation and Huaxia, and you go through them even very often for the smaller independent films, even for the films where you don't even want to discuss a profit sharing. You do a flat deal, and the film then belongs to China distributors who will try to make a lot of profit out of it. But just, and then of course I'll let my other colleagues speak. What is incredible is that really close to the success of Dangal, 9 months later, Secret Superstar opened in China, January 2017, and earned 120 million, I'm talking dollars. I mean, so this was bigger than the Marvel juggernaut Black Panther. I mean, the company that I was mentioning, Alan Liu's so I was mentioning Prasad Shetty's company. There is a company called E-Stars that has been promoting and distributing only Indian films. And it's headed by an industry veteran called Alan Liu. And he's been not just an advocate for Bollywood films, but he's also a regular associate of Eros International Media Limited. So we can come to that, we can back to that later. But just give me a few figures, because Deepti was mentioning a while ago that the films earn more money in China than in India. I mean, Dangal in India, I cannot tell you in crores. I'm not very good at calculating in crores, but Dangal, $92 million in India. I'm not including the diaspora market. 200 million in China. Secret Superstar, 13 million in India, 118 or almost 119 million in China. Irfan Khan's Vehicle, Hindi medium, 9 million in India, 33 million in China.
And since you mentioned that, Marco, what about Bahubali? Why do you think it didn't work in China when it was such a huge success in India? And also, Meg, if you have any insights on the fact that what makes a film really not work between two cultures, and then we can open up to the audiences for questions.
Absolutely. Because yes, the cumulative total gross of Bahubali, the conclusion was 12 million US, far less than what they had expected, while Toilet Ek Pramkata garnered more than that, over 13 millions, and it's a much smaller film. But again, Prasad Shetty and Alaliu were trying to diversify. And so they had to understand that eventually they had to stick to the cons. Yeah. I mean, that is right now the only way, because, again, two other films that had been slated for release earlier this year, Padman and Searching, they will only come out at the end of the year, just before there is a kind of blackout period in China that starts on 14 December in order to protect the big releases of Chinese films that will come out around Christmas and Western New Year time. But they will be clashing with Thugs of Hindustan, that is already slated for, I think it's December 10th or something like that. But as a huge release. I mean, we are talking like 6,000 or 7,000 screens. So it is very likely that, again, the film will gross more money in China than in India. But so what kind of space is left for independent films? I mean, the space that can slowly be built by the cooperation of festivals, several events, I mean, and I don't know, we will have to explain something which is called in Chinese PPN. I mean, you can do a flat deal, sell a film, all rights to a China distributor, and the China distributor, even though the main target will be the VOD platform, he can still find a way to get some theatrical exposure in the big cities. That will contribute. That will create the words of mouth. That will keep, the ball rolling in favor of non-Bollywood film. Now that a new policy has been announced yesterday, Film Facilitation Office,
Okay.
Ashok Kumar Parmar has announced the new policy lines fostering, foreign films coming to India to shoot. It is actually quite likely that there will be, of course, we are always talking about big entertainment, big spectacles from China coming to shoot in India. That will leave you independent filmmakers out, but we are there to take care of you.
Okay. Well, thank you, everyone, and thank you, audiences. Sorry it couldn't be a longer Q&A session, but, we are here at the bazaar, and Marco, Meg, and Maria are also here, so if the subject is still resonating with you and you have a few queries, you could always ask. Well, thank you.
Thank you, Marco. Thank you, Meg, Maria, and Deepti, for this wonderful, informative session.